Dear students, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. So I don't know if I will be able to live up to the introductions that were given by the students and by the principal. I'll try. So like everyone has been pointing out, so I've been in this industry for about 25 years now. So which basically means I can actually say that my experience is more than your age, right? Because I think you guys are about 21-ish. In fact, the freshers are about 19 years. So it's my privilege to be actually talking with an audience this young, because I love interacting with students, because I have a daughter who is 18 years old who's going into engineering college this year. So that's where I am right now, right? So I've been with Capgemini for about a year and a half now. But prior to that, I was setting up a retail shop for Hudson's Bay in Bangalore. I've been in Bangalore for close to 16 years now, but I am basically a Chennaiite, right? So that's the reason why you heard some snippets of Tamil from me. So I can speak in Tamil, but then I want to keep it more professional. So I will continue in English. But if anybody has any questions and you want me to address that in Tamil, please feel free to ask. And I have no problems in addressing in Tamil, okay? Because that's my native tongue. That's my mother tongue, okay? So I don't know if the topic has sparked your interest or not. So the topic is a little vague. On purpose, I kept it vague, because I wanted people to start thinking about what is it that I wanted to talk about. I do not believe in slides, so I don't have any slides. So I don't know if that shocks people, because usually you have a bunch of slides that are running through. I love a dialogue. So please feel free to ask me questions at any point in time, and I will be more than happy to answer if I have the answers, or else I will go back, get the answers, and then tell you what it is, right? So now there are two distinct aspects of business, right? So if you take any firm, for example, you have what the firm does for a living, and then what the firm has as the support structure. Now, for example, if you take Capgemini does both with IT. But not every company is like that. So not every company is a service company, right? So you look at any company like Unilever, for example, Nestle, for example, Volvo Cars, Tata, anything that you take, right? So there are two aspects of it. So there is the core business, which is, in the case of Tata, it's in manufacturing and selling cars, right? And in the case of, say, Unilever, it is manufacturing and selling products, like consumer products, like your Ariel washing powder, right? So that is the business. Now, what supports the business? So both Tatas as well as Unilever have what is called as a technology base. Now, without technology, nothing runs in today's world. Now, you can have a company that has got technology which is leading edge, right? Which uses artificial intelligence, which uses machine language, which uses everything like neural networks and all. And then there are still companies, and you'll be very surprised to note that there are companies that still run on Unix base, right? And I have been working with those companies as well. That's called the legacy systems, right? So you must have heard of this term called legacy, right? But legacy is anything that is old, right? So for now, even Oracle Financials is legacy, because Oracle is a very old system, right? You'll be very surprised to hear that. But legacy spans, right, from everything that is more than 30 years old to anything that is 5 years old, because the pace of technology is so fast that if you're not keeping up to touch with the technology, you become legacy right away, right? So that is how it is. Therefore, there is always this fear in the mind of people on what I should learn. What is it that is going to put me at the forefront of what we call as the rat race? So which is getting into a job, getting the right education, etc., etc., etc. I have a very simple proposition, right? I'm going to break it down. Very simple, right? If you want to learn technology, stick to Java, because for the last 17 years, Java has been running the roost. Nobody has been able to overtake Java, right? It's still very relevant. Most of the artificial intelligence programs, most of what you call as the R language, the Pythons, etc., they have Java as the base. So if you know Java, you can learn any of these systems, right? So do not really stress out on learning the latest, because by the time you come out, what is current today, what is live today will be passé, will be legacy, right? So don't try to get into the rat race by trying to learn what is the most recent in the market, what is the leading edge in technology. That's not needed at all. You need to come up with a completely different approach, and that's what I have been advocating, right? And that is where this whole thing is coming from, this business technology divide, right? And like any old person, and I think your dads and moms will also do this, I'll start with my own story, right? So I was working with Tesco. So Tesco is a retailer based out of the UK. So they have their Indian offices. So I was working for them, and I was managing all of their Asia, Central Europe, and American operations, right? Now, you know, when I talk about Asia, Central Europe, and North America, there are 3 time zones, right? So Asia starts very early in the morning, and North America starts late in the evening. So it was kind of like a 15, 16-hour coverage that I needed to provide. Now, the problem with that is that even though we had all the technology things in place, and technology was not reporting any problem, I still had business issues. I still had people from the business calling me and telling me that, for example, a particular item is not on the shelf, a particular item's price is not accurate, so on and so forth. So when I started digging into what could be the problem, that is when I came up upon this particular conundrum called as the business technology divide, right? Every technology program could have run right, but unless it picks the right file, unless it runs through the correct set of records, and unless it updates the right information back in the database, whatever you do from the technology side, your business is not going to realize that. Therefore, a better way to analyze whether your support has been efficient or not, whether your technology is doing what it is supposed to or not, is to understand what is the business that your technology is running. So, for example, in retail, like I said, the most important thing is that your prices should be accurate. So, which means there is a specific engine that's running your prices. There is an item master that manages all the items that you see on the shelves. So you go to a More supermarket or you go to any supermarket, right? And you see all these stock keeping units called SKUs, right? So you see all your shelves with, say, rice, with dal, with everything, right? And now you see the prices that are there. So every shelf has a price that is affixed to it. So if you think back on where those prices are coming from, how are those prices changed on a daily basis? How is a discount enforced? So if you start thinking about all that, that is when you start thinking about the business processes that go behind this, right? Now that is called as a business process focus. Now, out of a business process focus, what you draw out is called as a business process map. It's called the BPM process. Now you must have learned about this, right? If there is anybody from an economics background or anybody had economics as one of the papers, you would have seen that there is something called as a business process map. Now, a business process map is nothing but it says right from the time a person enters into the store to the time he or she pays for the item and takes the item and walks out, that is the entire business process, right? Now, for any technology person, I think it is extremely important that that person understands this process. Because once you understand the process, then it becomes very easy for us as technologists to figure out where the problem is, how can I intervene, how can I make sure that the customers have a very smooth experience in my store, right? Therefore, what I advocate is that instead of focusing on technology, I am not asking you to not learn technology. Don't get me wrong, technology is important. All I am saying is that just learning technology is not going to be enough. Don't get into the rat race by going after whatever is the latest. Understand your technology backbone, but focus on the business process, right? So there are several industries. Now, each person will have a specific interest in an industry. For example, in my case, I chose consumer products and retail as the industry. You know what is consumer products, right? So anything that the consumer can touch and feel is called a consumer product. So your washing machine, your beverages like your Horlicks, your Nescafe, all that belongs to what is called as the consumer products. Now, if you look at the companies that belong to this category, you would immediately think about Procter & Gamble, you'll think about Unilever, so then you will think about Nestle, you will think about Parle chocolates, all that are consumer product companies. right? So when you look at the consumer product companies, right, the first thing to understand is that how is the business run, right? The underpin for any consumer product or any industry is something called as a supply chain. Now, the reason why I'm going to focus the next 5-10 minutes on supply chain is because that is the key that runs most of the business. Now, what is the supply chain? So when you go to a store, you see the item on the shelf. Have you thought about where is that item coming from? What's the journey that the item has taken before it actually reaches the shelf? That is the supply chain. So there are several players in the supply chain, starting from the manufacturer. So the manufacturer is, say, for example, any CPG, any consumer products group is a manufacturer. So, for example, you take a simple example of Horlicks. So Procter & Gamble manufactures Horlicks, and Horlicks is manufactured from their plant, and then what happens is they ship it. So this is called logistics. So you bring the trucks, you ship it. And then what you do is that it comes to warehouses. A warehouse is nothing but a storage location. So it comes there. And then what happens from there is that there are stores, there are retail stores. So retail is the final part where the consumers come and pick the goods up. So then the orders come into the warehouse. The warehouse looks at the orders and then it ships appropriately to the necessary retailers. The retailers get it, the customers come and buy it from the retailer. So this is one flow, which is called as the item flow. Now, there is another very important flow that is also happening called as the data flow. So data is extremely important. Now, why is data important? Now, from a consumer or a manufacturer to a retailer flow, if I look at the communication flow, it will be a flow of, I would say, okay, I'm sending this information. Here is my ship list. Here is how many items are there. You look at an Amazon, right? So when the Amazon package comes in, you look at how much you've ordered, how much has been shipped, and then you check with the package. And then you complain to Amazon saying it's not there, right? That's what we do, right? So that is called as the pick list, right? So that is the flow of information. But the most important flow of information comes from the retailer to the manufacturer, because it is at the retailer that you know what the demand for the product is. So I'm introducing concepts as I go and I'm trying to explain it. If you have questions, please make a note of it, because I'll be more than happy to explain the concepts, because I think the concepts are important. So if you look at the demand, the demand is how many bottles of Horlicks I need, for example. And this is drawn from, in the last 1 month, how many have I sold? So it could be anything from 10 boxes to 40 boxes, 50 boxes, etc. So the demand from the multiple retailers are consolidated, and then they move up to the manufacturer. So the manufacturer then plans, looking at what he already has in stock. Stock means what has been unsold, what is left, which can be sold. And then they decide on how much they need to manufacture. Now, there is an extension to the supply chain. Because to manufacture Horlicks, what do you need? You need some raw materials. So the raw materials then goes up to the next level, which is to the raw material suppliers. The raw material supplier then supplies to the manufacturer. Manufacturer manufactures it and then sends it down. Now, the consolidation of the demand as it goes up the channel has a lot of inconsistencies. There is a lot of guesswork that is going on, because nobody can be perfect in estimating, right, and forecasting what the demand is going to be. There could be a spike because of the COVID. Now everybody is in the hospital. So if you go to the hospital, the typical thing is you buy a bottle of Horlicks and Apple. I don't know who started this concept. I hate that. But anybody who goes to meet anybody in the hospital has a bottle of Horlicks and a kilo of Apple or orange. I don't know why. But that is what happens. Therefore, there is a sudden spike in demand. Now, if Procter & Gamble actually has not planned for this, then what will happen is the retailers will run out of Horlicks very soon. Therefore, we will get to a situation called out of stock. Now, why am I talking about all this is because if you understand this flow, right, I can understand where the gaps are, and I can start putting in technology pieces to handle this. For example, supply chain if you look at any packaged goods, packaged software like an SAP or Oracle or Manhattan, all these are leading in the supply chain space. Now, what they do is that they have different modules. There is one module called as the item master module. Item master module is the one that's going to manage your inventory. So I told you about inventory visibility. So for the CPG company or the consumer products organization to know how much is already there and how much they need to actually produce, the item master is going to be very important, because you can query on that, you can find out how much is there, you can look at what is needed, then you can do a def, and then based on the difference, you can run what is called as a production schedule, right? How many of you have taken production engineering? I don't know, but this is where production engineering is extremely important in businesses, because you will then go into figuring out how much should you produce, and for that production, what you need from a raw material perspective. You look at the lead time from the supplier. I'm using a lot of terms, guys. Please don't get confused. So lead time is nothing but the time it takes from placement of an order to delivery of the goods. Right? That's called as the lead time. So based on all this, you may place an order to the raw material supplier, and then the raw material supplier supplies the goods. You manufacture. The manufacturing takes its own time, and then you ship it. Right? So you see how IT is involved here, right? Because you have your inventory master. Inventory master is going to have both your raw material inventory as well as your finished goods inventory. It is also going to hold what is called as a bill of material. All this you will learn in your first year, irrespective of which branch you are in. There is a paper on mechanical engineering where you will find bill of material. Bill of material is extremely important for everybody. So please understand that a bill of material is nothing but what is needed for my final product. So it builds up from scratch. So it builds up from, say, here is my raw material, here is what my the assembled goods will look like, here is what my final goods will look like, here is the quantity that I need, etc. Including what is needed in labor will all go into the bill of material, right? So this is how a bill of material is built. Now that bill of material is actually built from the item master, right? Now, next important thing there on the item master itself is that there is also what is called as a vendor master. The vendor master is nothing but a list of suppliers who supply my goods at the cheapest possible rate, right? So now what will happen is that if I know I need X, Y, and Z items, I look at the supplier master, I do a query from a supplier master into the item master, find out which supplier can supply the item that I need. In fact, I can run a reverse query also from an item master into the supplier master. I find out which supplier can deliver on time, who is the cheapest, and where I can actually employ what is called as economies of scale, which means if I order more, I get better discounts. And my transportation will also be cheaper. So then what happens is this goes into the supplier. The supplier then delivers. Again, the entire purchase order process, the generation of the purchase order, the fact of the purchase order being sent to the supplier is all run by IT. It's all run by the package itself. Right? So this is where it is. So now then what happens is, then the order comes in from the retailer. Again, it goes after the item master of the CPG, the consumer products. And then you look at what is there in final goods inventory. And then from the final goods inventory, you take what is needed, you ship it to the customer. And then immediately what happens is the amount of item that has been shipped is reduced from what is in stock. Very simple logic, right? So if you have 100, if you ship out 50, you need 50 more. Or sorry, you have 50 left. So that is what this particular process does. Now, where can we as technology make an improvement here, right? Now, over a period of, say, for example, 6 to 7 months, this process has been running. So now I have all the data that I need in the system. So I can run either a machine language program or I can run any artificial intelligence-based logic to figure out if this is what has happened month to month to month, depending on the weather patterns, depending on any unforeseen some of the things I cannot assume. Right? For example, COVID I cannot assume. I would have no idea about COVID in January of 2020. Right? It started in March. But of course, there are other things that I can plan for. I know Diwali is next month. So because Diwali is next month, I know that there will be a significant demand for firecrackers. So then I will know that Sivakasi has to work extra time. right, to manufacture all the firecrackers that I need. Hopefully people will still burst firecrackers this year, I don't know. But, so this is where IT can help me, right? So IT can look at what is called as pattern recognition, and these are terms that you will learn in AI and ML. There is something called as pattern recognition. So I will look at the patterns and figure out if this is the circumstance, this is going to be the demand that I will foresee. And because of that, I can forecast. And when I say forecast, I will say, okay, here is how much I need. Here is how much I will need this month. Here is how much I will need next month, etc., etc., etc. So this now tells me how important machine learning and artificial intelligence is to the whole supply chain, right? Forecasting, like I said, is an extremely tough thing to do. And I do see that the role of artificial intelligence in forecasting is going to only increase. I already see a lot of companies employing significant amounts of artificial intelligence in their entire forecasting cycle. And I only see this increasing. So guys, artificial intelligence is a very important area for you guys to know about. Again, when I say artificial intelligence, please don't immediately think I want to become an expert in like a R language or a Python. No, that is not what I'm talking about. You'll have to know about how to apply artificial intelligence. What is the application of artificial intelligence in any of the business areas, right? For example, like I said, forecasting is one of the areas. Look at artificial intelligence from that perspective. How can a pattern recognition program help me in doing a better job of managing my customer expectations? That is how your mindset should be. The minute your mindset is that, you will forget about whether it is Python or R language or whatever it is. Because like I said, it could be Python today, it could be something in 4 years when you come out of your college, right? So don't bank on that. Bank on what is artificial intelligence, what is the application of artificial intelligence in data management. And that is exactly how you should completely frame your next 4 years, right? So this is just one example, right? The other thing that everybody is talking about is data sciences. Now, for engineers, data could be anathema, but please know, because without data, without understanding the power of data, irrespective of which branch you are in, whether it's ECE or civil or mechanical, nothing can be done without data. I'll give you an example. So just a civil engineering, right? So you look at civil engineering. So what's the most important thing in civil engineering? You look at faults, right? So for example, if you're building a road or you want to say build a tunnel, right? For example, the tunnel that was built in between Kashmir and Ladakh in that area, right? So what is the most important thing, right? So there is something called as the load bearing factor. You need to figure that out. There is the vagaries of the weather. You need to account for that. Based on that, you will do material strength analysis. And when you do material strength analysis, what you will actually do is you will do regression analysis on if I put in this level of cement, if I put in this level of iron rods, if this is the pressure bearing capacity of the iron rods that I'm putting in the tunnel, here is how much load I can carry, right? This is all data, nothing but data. Because what happens is, because if I'm running a regression test, I will collect data. And what will happen is I will get a volume of data that I will then analyze for specific patterns to figure out what is my fracture point, right? Therefore, it is applicable across. So without data, it is almost impossible to run anything in engineering today. And I have seen that Chennai Institute of Technology does have a lot of touch base with data, which is important. But even in addition to what you're doing, I would suggest that the students, especially those who are in the second and third year, I know they are not on the call, but then the moderators are from the second and third year. So go talk to your friends and tell them that they need to start learning about data. They need to start understanding what is data, because the world today is moving towards a completely data-oriented structure. So unless you understand what is data, unless you understand what is it that the numbers are trying to tell you, it is going to be very difficult, because the world is changing. So if you go and tell some people that, look, I am an expert on C language, or I am a electronics and communication engineer, they're going to say, yeah, fine, but what do you know in this area? They're going to specifically ask you a question on, say, for example, signal processing. They're going to ask you, if this is what it is, how will you go about analyzing the importance of this signal that is coming in that has been captured. Right, so that is exactly where the world is moving towards. So sitting from Capgemini, I know when I go for interviewing people, the first thing I ask is, what's the one industry that you're interested in? And people, if they say they don't have an idea of what they're talking about, then I will not be interested in that person, because you need to have some industry-based knowledge. And I think CIT is doing an amazing job in getting industry experts to talk to you guys, because you need to understand where the world is moving toward. Right? And unless you do that, you will not be able to succeed in your interviews. Right? Especially for the second and third years, it is very important for you to, at least in the next 1.5 years that you have with the college, you start thinking about how you want to address the interview questions, which will be of this nature, because it's no longer going to be about pure engineering or even pure computer science. Right? See, I'm an MCA. I'm not even an engineer. So I'm a master's in computer application, and then I did my MBA. But then still, whatever I learned in MCA, which is about operating systems, which is about networks, etc., I don't use it at all. Right? Because all I do now is I talk to the industry leaders. I talk to the CXOs. I have even stopped talking to CIOs now. I talk to the chief marketing officer. I talk to the chief finance officer. Now, finance is always something that scares people away, especially engineers. Right? But don't. You need to understand finance. You need to understand exactly what is meant when somebody says that I have an invoice that needs a payment to be matched with it. Because what you're doing, especially people who are in ECE, people who are in computer science, will need to understand this, right? Because the first thing that is going to be asked of whenever you start a job is for you to be in support. Now, again, I want to advise you people not to shy away from two things: testing and support, right? Because if you want to really learn about a system, you have to be in support or in testing. Because any development guy is only exposed, or gal is only exposed to a very limited gamut. Right? It's only the module that you're going to be coding on, and you will not understand the entire system at all. So what I'm talking about, the entire flow, you will only understand if you're in an AM project. AM means application management project. So do not shy away from picking a support project. The immediate reaction from people is, oh my God, they're only giving me support. They're asking me to work on testing. So my friends are in development. Be happy that you're not in development right away. For the first 2.5 years, okay, to be very honest, I was also in the same boat. Nobody taught me otherwise. But when I went to the US in 1997, it seems so long ago now. So when I went to the US in 1997, I was given 10 days to learn a software package, Oracle Financials. I had no idea about Oracle Financials. I had no idea about finance. Right? I had only 10 days. But luckily what had happened was, in my MCA, I had accounting, and that was one of my favorite subjects. So what I did was that I did do some learning, extra learning on accounting. That helped me a lot because I was able to understand what is it that package was trying to do. And after the 10th day, I was put on call, which means I would be called at night as well, so 24/7. So I was put on call to support accounts payable. Accounts payable means I raise an invoice, somebody pays, and I raise a payment to somebody's invoice. So this is external, so outgoing. So then what happens is that sometimes there is a problem with the payment coming in, or with the payment going out, or with the invoice coming in, or with the mapping or something like that. And I'll be called at the middle of the night. So unless I understand that this is what a payment means and this is what an invoice means, I would have no clue, and there is nobody to call because everybody else is sleeping. Right? Therefore, it really helped me because I knew accounting, and that is what I am suggesting for you guys to do. But what happened is, in about 3 months of doing this support job, I knew the entire Oracle Financials platform. I knew it top to bottom, so much so that when I came back to India in 2003, I headed an entire unit to set up what is called as a center of excellence for lease management. Now, lease management was a completely new module that Oracle came up with. I was hired from the US, brought back to India to start the practice here. So that is how you learn, right? So when you want to learn something, what you have to do is that you have to take what is coming your way. Do not be picky and choosy, right? look for the organization more than the kind of work that you're going to get, because the organization always has a weight. For example, people say that if you are in TCS for the first 2 to 3 years of your life, the amount of training that you get in TCS is really awesome. Like that, you have Accenture, you have Capgemini, you have Tech Mahindra. These are the companies that put you through the grind, right? And you actually learn a lot. And again, these companies are not going to push you into SI projects, into development projects right away. They're going to first put you in support, and then you might get an opportunity to code later. Don't be stressed. It's okay. Because like I said, the best learning opportunity is in support projects, right? So basically, I think I have covered what I wanted to cover. So I will now take questions.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
So the juniors have asked few questions, sir. I'll read it now.
Of course.
First question is from Sindhuja. For which language do the companies give first priority to create app like Kotlin or Java or Flutter?
Okay, Sindhuja, I think you need to change your mindset. Okay, so do not look at what is the language that is needed. Look at what the app is going to do. Now, like I said, Java is the basic. So without Java, nothing moves in today's world. Okay, everything is based on Java. So if you want to learn one language, let it be Java in which you become an expert. However, look at what the application is asking for, right? For example, if the application asks for pattern recognition, then you know right away that Python is going to be the right language today. Might be something tomorrow. But be in a mindset that you understand what the application is asking for, and then decide on which language you want to work with. But like I said, please become an expert in Java, all of you guys.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So second question is from Aditya. He says he is a biology student with absolutely no computer science background. Which programming language do you recommend me to start with?
Okay, Aditya, I got to really appreciate where you are right now, because what is happening today is that life sciences is becoming huge. So I would say forget about the language, forget about which language you want to become an expert on. Figure out how can biology help. Neural networks is all about biology, right? So look at how biology can be applicable to the entire neural network framework, which means I'm pushing you towards artificial intelligence, because that's where the neural networks play. Again, don't worry about the programming language. Look at how the entire neural networks is going to work. Look at how biology, the cell structure, etc. You'll be very surprised. I read about this about a couple of months ago. Very, very interesting how what I learned in biology in class 12 is really very, very relevant to what the neural network is talking about today. It's all about the nerve systems, etc. So you are in the right space. So start learning up on neural network. This will lead you to a programming language. Don't focus on the programming language right now.
Next question is from a student. He is asking whether learning C++ is good or not bad.
Learning any language is not bad, student. I don't know why you have not given your name, but I will call you student X. So student X, don't worry about C++. C++ is a good language to learn, but C++ is kind of on its way out. So I would say if you want to learn a language which is kind of in the object-oriented space, stick to Java. Don't move away from Java. Of course, if you want to learn C++, go ahead. There is nothing wrong in learning an additional language. But I would say if you don't know Java, please learn it.
Okay, sir. So this is my question. So how can one start learning with data, sir?
Excellent question. Okay, this is the question I wanted actually. Okay, so how can you start learning about data? Understand what is data. You know that there are three categories, right? So data is just data. And then it becomes information, and then it goes into the space where you can actually start making decisions out of that, right? So intelligent decisions is what they call it, right? This is the stages of data. If you want to really get into the data sciences space, go on to any of these free programs that they offer. Like there are so many programs or so many platforms that offer free data sciences programs. So that's 40 hours, 50 hours program. Start reading that first. You will understand what is data. You will understand how data can be used. Right? So you are in Triple E now. So
Yes,
then
sir.
what you try to do is that you try to apply it to your situation. So you look at, say, for example, a switch, and then you look at I would say, the pressure on the switch that happens because of the surge in demand, or sorry, the surge in power that comes into the switch. See how you can forecast what will happen if there is a surge of X centigrade. What is going to happen to your switch, when it is going to melt. So look at the material strength of what the switch is made of, and make a suggestion. Take this as a project and make a suggestion on what would be the right material so that it is cost effective and it also manages the surges. For example, in Chennai and in Bangalore also, there are a lot of surges that happen in power. So look at that and see what's the best material that can be used to make the switches. Use that as a project for you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So next
But
question.
do read up. Sorry, but do read up on the data first. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So next question is from Srinitish. He has asked, can we have knowledge on all the languages?
Srinidhi, please no. You'll only get confused. So, see, the problem is, like I said, there are about 40 different languages today, and new languages are coming up every day. So what you will do if you start learning all the languages is that you will only feel frustrated. You'll get into the rat race, and at the end of 4 years, all you will be doing is you'll be looking at when the next language is coming out, which is not the right way to go about it. So what you want to do, Srinidhi, is that focus on what your interest area is. So your interest could be finance, or it could be, say, for example, hardware engineering, whatever it is. Pick that particular area. Look at 1 or 2 languages that is relevant to that particular area. And not only learn the language, but also learn how the language can help the business to move from where it is today to where it is next, whichever business it is. I'm not asking you to choose X versus Y. So have a very wide idea initially, because you're in the first year now. You have some time. So take the first year, go through all the courses in the first year. So the good thing about our engineering colleges in India is that in the first year, you're exposed to everything. So go through that, find out which is the one area that you're interested in. Is it mechanics? Is it mechatronics? Is it electronics? Whatever it is. Pick that. And then based on that, figure out which is the right language for you. Right? But the one language that you should learn, and I'm starting to become like an old person now, which I am, but anyway, Java is the one language you should definitely learn. So become an expert in Java, but please do not start learning all the languages. That is not going to help you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Next question is from Aditya. What do you think about the recently introduced data science online program offered by IIT? Will that be useful for us as engineering students?
Absolutely. So it is slightly on the expensive side, and that's why I was suggesting that you go through some of the free courses that are there. But the data sciences program that the IIT is offering, and there is also a data sciences program that one of the American universities is offering. Both of them are extremely good. I've gone through the program. I haven't taken them. I've gone through the programs. The coverage is awesome. Now, the only problem that you will face, Aditya, is the time. So I don't know if you will have enough bandwidth to cover both your engineering as well as your data sciences. So what you want to probably do is that you can sign up for it and then take it during your semester breaks. Right? It will be very useful. Yeah, that program is actually very useful.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So next question is from Srinitish again. So, sir, do we have widened job opportunities for a particular language?
These days, Srinidhi, these days, hiring is not happening on programming languages. Hiring happens either on package software or it happens on an area like artificial intelligence or machine language or something like that, right? Or agile programming, for example. It doesn't happen anymore. The world has changed. It doesn't happen on a programming language anymore. So, for example, no interviewer is going to say, I want people with C++. People say, I want people with experience in X, Y, or Z, not in programming languages. They talk about areas in which the person has expertise in. Because, look, I didn't want to say this, but anybody can learn a programming language within a month. And this is something that I have seen across the board. even people who have no idea about a programming language, as long as they understand the precepts, the concepts, how the build is. So that's the reason why I'm talking about one object-oriented programming language. If you know one, you can do everything. So for example, a programming language like Python requires only 1 week of introduction because Python doesn't require any coding. It's just push and pull, right? So that is how easy programming language has become. Programming is not going to be the way of the future. People are trying to move away from programming because robotics is taking over, right? So therefore, please do not focus on getting a job with an expertise in programming language. That is not going to happen.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question is from Naveen Kumar. He says he is a biology student. Could I learn C or Python from home in these quarantine days?
Okay, so there are, Naveen Kumar, there are several agencies which offer short-term courses in C, but I don't know why you would want to learn C. I would rather say learn Python. Yeah, Python is good, but before you get into Python, if you don't have any idea about object-oriented programming language, you will be at a loss. So I would suggest you learn Java. And again and again, I reiterate on Java because, like I said, Java is the only programming language that has remained unchanged for the last 17 so years. It's still important, right? Now, biology students, like I said, hold a unique position in the whole engineering framework because this is where the world is moving toward. People are trying to link engineering to biology, and it's having a significant impact. So there are some universities in the US which have biology as one of the subjects in the first year. So I'm going to talk to Dr. Ramesh and I'm going to tell him that you need to start introducing biology in the first year so that people like Naveen Kumar can score centum.
Yes, sir. Once we become autonomous, I think we have a great opportunity to
Perfect, sir. Let's talk because I think there are some areas where our engineering colleges need to move to where people have not even thought that this will be an engineering subject.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So next question is from Shivani. What are the languages included in artificial intelligence?
So today, if you look at artificial intelligence as an area, Python leads the race. So it is Python or R language. R language is more machine learning and Python is artificial intelligence. But it's Python today. I don't know what it will be tomorrow. So, well, see, without learning Python, it is very difficult to experience artificial intelligence. So I would say learn artificial intelligence as a concept first, right? Again, there are introductory courses on all these platforms. Some are free and some are for 499 rupees or something like that. Very, very useful courses. And then you get into Python. But artificial intelligence is something you need to understand as a concept first before you get into programming languages.
Next question is from Yuva. What are the new exciting innovation or ideas in the field of computer application?
Okay, I think Yuva is probably a computer science student. So your computers keep changing. So if you look at the product maturity phase of computers, right, we have hit a plateau now. So therefore, what people are trying to do in this phase is that they're trying to take it one notch higher, which means they are not going through the cycle. They're completely trying to change the way things work. So what's the exciting thing in computer applications is all about doing computing without computers. So this is the IoT space. So it's called the Internet of Things space, right? So the whole cloud technology is what is taking the world by storm. Now, what has cloud done is that it has moved everything from a physical location to something that is non-existent. You don't know where it exists. Of course, when I say cloud, it is literally not on the cloud, right? There is some place somewhere where the data is stored. But as far as the organizations which go on the cloud are concerned, they become very lean. They don't have these huge server rooms. So I still remember when I set up organizations, the server room used to be so big and so warm to walk into because there will be so many machines humming there, right? It's no longer the case now. So the server rooms are a thing of the past, right? So the exciting thing that is happening, if you look at one area where the computer science or the field of computer applications is going, is completely moving everything off-prem into the cloud. So this is called as going lean. So if you ask for two terms that is driving the computer application market today, it is going lean. Everywhere people are trying to go lean.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Harini. If anyone here wants to build an all-in-one tech giant, how would you suggest to start and go about?
Wow. Okay, so Harini, I think it's going to be yourself. So all the very best for that. So how would you want to build a tech giant? Okay, so they don't start as giants, by the way. You'll have to start very small. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you need to identify a gap that is existing in today's market. Right? So this is called market analysis. So you need to do the market analysis first. Identify a gap and then come with a solution that fits the gap. I'll give you an example. One of my very close friends, so he was working with me, and what he did was he quit the job, and then he decided that today what is happening is there are a lot of these very small retailers, right, who really want to go online, but they don't have the power to go online because they don't have the money. It's very expensive. So what he did was that he created a platform, the hosting platform, and he said any retailer who wants to now go online can subscribe to me. I will take you online for a subscription fee. Right? You don't have to do anything else. You just have to pay me the subscription fee. I will do the onboarding. I will do taking you online. I will also do your item maintenance for you. He is a very successful, I think he has reached 100 million today. It's only about 5 years old now. It's 100 million already today. So what you need to do, Harini, is that identify a gap, come up with a solution that fills the gap, and then go public. That's the first thing you need to do. Now, then things will start happening. So this is how everything happened, right? Infosys, if you look at what Narayana Murthy and his wife Usha did, along with a lot of other people, is that they started very small in a warehouse, right? The garage, as they call it. So they started working in a garage because they found that there was a huge gap in the technology space. They identified the gap much before year 2000 hit. So by the year 2000, they were very well equipped to handle what was going to come down their way. And that is how Infosys is where it is today, right? Therefore, that is what you need to do, Harini. I don't know if it is a very simple answer. It is not. I'll be more than happy to help you through the journey. If you want to, anytime you can contact me. Dr. Bala has my phone number as well as my email ID. So you can reach out to me anytime you want. If you come up with some ideas, I can walk you through it. But that is what you need to do. Identify a gap, come up with an idea that fits the gap, and then take it public.
Thank you, sir. So last question. It's from Madhuvanti. Can I be an entrepreneur after CSBS engineering?
Of course, Madhuvanti. So again, I think you should pair up with Harini, because Harini is going to come up with an idea. She's going to identify the gap, come up with a solution, and then the two of you can actually enter into an entrepreneur relationship, and then you can really flourish. Again, see, it's a very noble move, right, to go entrepreneur, especially in India, because that is what Mr. Modi has also been talking about, because he wants more entrepreneurs to come out from India. Because after the Infosys and TCS and the most recent very successful startups, India is way back when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? So looking at where your interests are, I would suggest, Madhuvanti, that you actually take an MBA after your engineering. So don't stop at engineering. Please do an MBA and come to Bangalore, and then I can help you as well. So prepare for your CAT. So do your IIM. IIM in Bangalore is the best for entrepreneurship. They have a program for budding entrepreneurs. So it's really, really good. And I have seen many success factors coming out of IIM Bangalore. Any help I can do, I will. But all the very best.